Seldom do I have prepared remarks, but today is different because I do not want there to be any confusion or ambiguity with what I will say. Today is not a day to celebrate, but the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi on 2 counts of murder is sure a major step in leading to the conclusion of this long-term and complex investigation. First, I'd like to speak directly to Anna, Mike, Becky, Kelsey, your extended families, along with the entire Delphi community that certainly has grown and now includes our nation and even many countries around the world. I am proud to report to you that today, actually last Friday, was the day, and an arrest has been made. Thanks to literally hundreds of media outlets that have been steadfast in reporting and keeping the memories of Abby and Libby front and center. Many of you in the room have developed relationships with me personally, and I always have a personal perspective, and today's no different. But from a very personal perspective, you all have provided inspiration and support, even while oftentimes frustrated with us and me. You continue to encourage the efforts, and you too believe that one day we would all be here participating and sharing this news. To the entire law enforcement community, which includes all local, state, and federal agencies, which are far too many to specifically mention today, thank you, thank you, thank you. We are going to continue a very methodical and committed approach to ensure that if any other person had any involvement in these murders in any way, that person or persons will be held accountable. Since the murders of Abby and Libby 2,086 days ago, the daily investigative team has worked tirelessly and is certainly worthy of mention today. Specifically, Sheriff Linsonby, the Sheriff of Carroll County, Detectives Tony Liggett, Detective retired Kevin Hammond, former Delphi chief and now the prosecutor's investigator Steve Mullins, State Police First Sergeant Jerry Holman, Detectives Jay Harper, Dave Vito, and Brian Harshman, along with members of the United States Marshal Service, specifically Agent Jeremy Clinton and Agent Bill Colfers. With them today is Dan McClain, the U.S. Marshal, appointed U.S. Marshal. Our state police analyst, our scientist from many different disciplines within our laboratory division, Mrs. Kathy Shank, for your incredible dedication to detail, and to so many others that I know I've missed. I really believe that Abby and Libby would be proud of you for standing strong, even in the face of immense pressure and perpetual criticism. Some of these individuals have postponed retirement, passed on promotional opportunity, have dedicated personal time away from their families, given up nights, weekends, and holidays, all while in the pursuit of accountability for Abby and Libby. I know that today's announcement will not diminish your resolve, and I hope you have found just a bit of peace in this most complicated world. This is really important. While I know you are all expecting final details today concerning this arrest, today is not that day. Today is not that day. This investigation is far from complete, and we will not jeopardize its integrity by releasing or discussing documents or information before the appropriate time. Prosecutor Nick McClellan, of course, will share additional information about what we can and cannot say, and also explain to you why the probable cause affidavit is temporarily sealed by the court and not available. And by the way, he has been a tremendous, tremendous asset to this team. I'm yet again asking you for your patience and please your understanding while our system of due process works. Also remember that all persons arrested are presumed innocent. All persons arrested are presumed innocent. You all will have an innate desire to subjectively interpret and then report what you think. We in the law enforcement realm cannot, and you should never allow us to, talk about what we think concerning facts, but rather discuss and share at the right time what it is we know. The time will come when additional details can be released. But again, today is not that day. It's about Abby and Libby, their families, and this community, this nation, and even our planet. The prosecutor has been very clear with law enforcement about what his expectations are, about what can and cannot be released, shared, or discussed. So we will, of course, comply. If you choose to be critical of our silence, be critical of me, not the front line. These are the folks that have committed their entire lives to a successful conclusion. In other words, a guilty verdict. As we move to the next phase of this investigation, I will continue to offer all resources that the ISP has to not only the investigative team I anticipate growing, but also to Prosecutor McClellan as we prepare for the coming months. Again, Nick has been very resolute and very clear, and I'm most grateful for his leadership. And it's going to be really important as we move forward. Please continue offering tips that you would like to share. The many avenues to report will remain open and will be available to all. Please continue doing that. In closing, I stand before you in this church and very place where we held our first briefing nearly 6 years ago, and just hours after the murders of Abby and Libby. Right here. Pulling in today, I wasn't really sure what emotion I would experience. But peace came over me. And I didn't expect that to happen. And I hope all of you, with all the different responsibilities you have from around the planet today, have felt some of that as well. But remember, we're not done. I think what we all have experienced proves that together there's nothing we cannot do. But more importantly, giving of ourselves, all of us, giving of ourselves matters more than what we could ever receive. Abby and Libby, though in death, have had a profound effect on so many of us, on how we live, and as importantly, who we all should be. I would now like to introduce to you my friend and the Carroll County Sheriff, Tom Lidsby, for his remarks. Sheriff.
I believe in a God of justice and righteousness. Today, I believe that same God has provided us with justice for Abby and Libby. As Sheriff of Carroll County, Indiana, I want to publicly and sincerely thank each individual who played a role in helping us during this 5.5-year investigation. Whether it was in an investigative capacity, providing tips, cards or letters of suggestions or encouragement, phone calls, and thousands of other countless ways of communicating. I earnestly thank those who prayed for this moment in time. We now move forward through the Indiana criminal justice system, allowing the system to provide its due diligence and process in providing that justice which is owed Abby and Libby, their families, and this community. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Nicholas McClellan. I'm the Carroll County prosecutor. And before we get started, I want to reiterate some of the things that Sheriff Lesenby and Superintendent Carter stated. I first want to thank both of them. They've been a great support to my office throughout this investigation. They've always been there for a phone call and always been willing to help a hand or a line of assistance to me and my office during this investigation. I want to thank the team behind me. This is the Homicide Task Force team that we've put together. Thank them and thank their families for being so understanding for the many nights they've worked away from their families, away from their children. There are many dates in a lifetime that you're going to remember. The date your children are born, the date you're married, the date you buy a first house, the date Abby and Libby went missing. One of those dates was last Friday, October 28, 2022. At that time, we had gathered evidence to formulate a PC that we submitted to the court, and the judge did find probable cause for an arrest of Richard Allen. He's been charged with 2 counts of murder for the murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. This investigation is still very ongoing. We're keeping the tip line open, the tip email open. We encourage everybody to continue to call in tips, not only about Richard Allen, but about any other person that you may have. For that reason and for the nature of this case, the probable cause and the charging information has been sealed by the court. I've been very clear to everybody that per the court order, we cannot talk about the evidence that's in the probable cause or the evidence that's in the charging information. That will become evident to you at some point and it'll be released, but right now is not that day. Today's about Abby and Libby, focusing on them. Mr. Allen has had his initial hearing. He's entered a preliminary plea of not guilty. The matter's been set for a pretrial on January 13th at 9 a.m., 2023, and a trial date of March 20th, 2023 at 9 a.m. He is presumed innocent. We will have an opportunity and day in court when we can present the evidence that we have against him. But until that day, he is presumed innocent. I want to open up to a few limited questions from the audience. But again, keep in mind, we are not going to talk about the evidence that we have in this case or about the charging information. We cannot. Those things have been sealed by the court. And so I want to open up a few questions.
Prosecutor, when did Richard Allen become a suspect? And do you think he acted alone?
Again, that's part of the investigation, so I'm not going to talk about those things. What I can say is that we have probable cause established by the court for his arrest, and he is in custody. He's being held currently without bond.
How long has he been a suspect?
I'm sorry? Again, that gets into the evidence we have of the investigation. And I know from everybody, it's frustrating. I know everybody, not only reporters, but the family, everybody wants to know more information. I understand it's frustrating, but my goal is to maintain the integrity of this case.
Superintendent Carter, you had said that you believe that you had spoken to the suspect or the suspect's family 2 years ago. Is this man one of those people?
Again, I appreciate the question, but we're getting into the timeline of events, and today's not the time to do that.
Can you talk about how rare it is?
Family, I know you've had a lot of conversations with them, you were almost in tears pretty much when you started off this press conference. Can't imagine how emotional it is for everybody that's worked on this case. What was your conversation first like with the family, Abby, when you were able to tell them you finally got the suspect?
It was a very personal moment for me, and I think it was a very personal moment for them, for all of us that have had interaction with the family. We developed a relationship that I think is going to last at least one lifetime, and maybe a second. So it was a very, very, very sad yet a very humbling experience.
Superintendent, you asked for tips, you, detective work, there was a reward for $325,000. This all come together to make this nexus, that the combination of all three things that led us to this day, or is it one or the other?
Well, eventually you'll be able to see what led us to this day, but again, today's not that day. To include the reward, you mentioned that, Raphael, about the reward itself, and again, very premature for us to talk about that. There's still a tremendous amount of work to do.
What would you say that Abby and Libby have taught you in depth that we can remain to continue on with?
I think probably resilience and understanding the value of each and every day. That today was the day, but I didn't anticipate they ever thought today would be their day. And I feel like I've known them for a long time.
Is somebody else involved in this case?
Excuse me?
Do you assume there's any other individuals involved in this case?
We haven't closed the door on the investigation. And so that's why we keep the tip line and the tip email open. And so we're not presuming anything at this point, but we're going to continue to take tips, continue to take any information anybody has. And as we've done with all the information we've gathered, we're going to look at that and examine that and see where it leads us.
Prosecutor, can you explain the law? You've asked the court, based on this investigation, that these documents should remain out of the public view. Can you explain, without getting into the details of what's in the documents, but this is not regular, usually a public hearing is held, we should be able to see all the documents, right?
Sure,
But
sure.
you made a decision. Can you explain your decision as to why you believe that maybe for the next 30 days, no one in this room should have access to those records?
Sure. It is unusual. We don't do it very often in all the cases that we handle here in Carroll County. We did it in this case because the investigation is still open. And while all cases are important, the nature of this case has some extra scrutiny with it. And so my office, felt it was important to seal those records. There will be a public hearing on whether or not those records are going to remain sealed or not. There'll be public notice for that hearing so that everyone can attend, but there will be a hearing to determine whether or not they're going to stay sealed. But for now, to me, it's about protecting the integrity of this case. I want to have an opportunity at some point to have an opportunity in court to explain the evidence and for that not to be tarnished or tainted or anything like that. Again, he's presumed innocent. And so it was important for me in this case to do that. Hold on just a minute. We're not going to comment on that right now as part of the investigation. Again, we just encourage everybody to continue to call in tips if they have them about anybody, and we'll examine those tips.
How does it feel for you guys to have searched nationwide for nearly 6 years, going all over the place, only to find your guy, down the street from your office?
That's a hard question to answer. It's a mixed emotions. I've been watching the news all weekend like everybody else has, and I think a lot of the members of the public said it right. It's bittersweet. It's a step in the right direction. It's concerning that he's a local guy. So I think just different emotions. Again, this is a step in the right direction. This is the first step into getting into court and having a trial. And so.
All right. That concludes our press conference today. Shortly, I will be releasing a press release that will have this photo and a couple more details that'll also be here for handout. That'll also be on the Indiana State Police Lafayette Post Facebook page. Right after this press conference, I'm going to send it out. There's also hard documents in the back. Thank you all for taking the time to be here today, and be safe as you travel home.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad to have you guys here today. I want to thank you so much for joining me and for clicking on the video. But unfortunately, we have a very sad, tragic case, which there is some good news. They have found what appears to be Bridge Guy. Now we are waiting to hear to have the news conference Monday to find out if in fact it is what we think, that in fact it is the person who caused the deaths of Libby and Abby from Delphi, Indiana. And so now we have found out that this man has been living and working very close to where this whole thing happened. He lives only a couple of miles, about 5 minutes away from the Monon High Bridge. He works not far from there either. He also lived very close to the school. He had been living and working pretty much, as they said, in plain sight, hiding. He worked at the pharmacy. It is said that he had interactions with the family. He worked in the pharmacy, and I suppose he helped out with the photo area as well, where where people come and get their photos developed. And so this man was living there this whole time and before then. Now, you're probably wondering, how in the world does a person do something like that? That is what I'm wondering. Why in the world would a person harm those two beautiful girls, Abby and Libby, out on that day, best friends, going for a walk in the beautiful weather, and along comes this monster Bridge Guy, and he ends everything for them. And the scene when they were found was a horrible scene. And so supposedly this man is responsible. At this point, we don't know exactly. They are going to have to prove this. All of this is going to have to be proved in court. And so I hope that they do have some good evidence. What I heard is that it could be that the DNA that they do have is actually possibly hair, maybe from a pet. And so that is pretty interesting. They dug in his backyard. They were digging in the yard of this man, looking for something, possibly the remains of a pet dog, possibly looking for remains of a weapon that was used. He is registered as carrying, and I did hear one report from somebody online who said that actually he was very polite at work and that there was nothing that they had noticed as far as suspecting him as being Bridge Guy. This all happened back in 2017, the day before Valentine's. They were discovered the next day, and now 5 years later, for Halloween, just like as if he's a monster being caught, he's going in behind bars where he belongs for the horrible act that he committed on these two innocent girls. So all I can say is thank God that they caught him, because the fact is that that community was in danger, and anywhere else that he might have gone, let's say if he had left Indiana, traveled to some other location, and possibly harmed someone else. There was another case of two girls prior to Abby and Libby, also that were together, and they also came to a very tragic fate. And I'm wondering if there's any connection with this man to that case. He is now 50 years old, and so you've got to wonder about his history. I believe that he had been living in Delphi from, I think it was 2012 or 2016? I think it was 2012, something like that. But you've got to wonder, where was he living before? Has he been in different places? And is there a trail of crimes behind him? He did have an alias. They said this is his alias name that he used. And so that is also kind of odd. You have to wonder, why does this man need an alias? Is there a connection with the Kleins? I did hear that he had lived in the same location where the Kleins lived, and possibly they had interacted, possibly they're friends. We shall see. But now, the most important part is that they can prove a case against him and put him behind bars for the rest of time. And I think that there in Indiana, that it's possible that he might end up getting a death penalty, that he will not be around much longer, or that he will face the worst possible sentence, and he deserves it. So this is a horrible situation. I have heard some of the voice comparisons, and there is not much to compare with his voice, but I will put a link. There's one channel that did a very good voice comparison, and that is the MOB channel. I'm going to put a link. This channel is new to me, but it did pop up, and you will see that he was able to cut little pieces of this guy's voice and compare it to the recording when we hear "down the hill," guys, down the hill. And so that is very interesting to hear. It doesn't sound exactly or very close the same to me, but you've got to take into account that when they were recording his voice, I believe the phone was in the girl's pocket. It was muffled. And of course, he would have changed his voice to be more deep, more like an authority voice, maybe more angry, to put them into fear, versus when he's talking to his wife in that short recording, he has more of a quiet voice, and I guess not as aggressive towards her. And so that would also account for a different tone of voice. And so anyway, so this situation is, we want to see this person pay the price for what he did to Abby and Libby. I guess they must have some good evidence. They were able to pull him in, to take him in custody. And so we have to hope that they will have a good case against him. I am curious to know how long it is that they've been watching him, because that community was in danger. To have someone like that who could commit such a crime, a heinous crime, violence like that against two innocent children, then you have to wonder, who else, how many people were in danger, and whether or not the FBI, if they had, let's say, were they watching him? Did they have somebody who was, who had their eye on him to make sure that nothing would happen? They did know that whoever it was living in that community. That was their opinion. And that specifically, that they knew the guy was hiding in plain sight. So does that tell us that they knew who it was? Or, and they knew that it was either him or maybe somebody else, down to a few people, and that they were monitoring him, and that people were not in danger. And then so I'm guessing he didn't commit any other crimes since then. It could be that they were watching him. And so that would be good. But now, thank God, he's behind bars. And I did have a look at the various photos that are available. You can see that he has a daughter who looks, to me, at first glance, I saw the photo of his daughter sitting on the bridge. Okay, so at first I'd heard that photo was taken after, and then I heard that in fact that the photo was taken before the crime, of his daughter, and that it was shared on Facebook after. But at first glance, when I saw that photo, and you guys let me know what you think, I'm just focusing in on it for the first time. And for a second, I thought that it was Libby. And you can see that the hair is long. His daughter's hair is long. And from afar, it's kind of creepy, to think that he has a daughter that has a similarity to Libby, and that he committed a crime against her. So I don't know what the connection is, but that is very strange and disturbing. So let me know what you guys think about that. Again, that, it's on that bridge. He spent time there with his family, and then this horrible crime. So he had the familiarity, as the investigators had told us, that it's got to be somebody who lives around here, who knows this location. There is a cemetery back there, as you know, right alongside the property of Ron Logan. That is where there is a cemetery. It is adjacent to Ron Logan's property. And so I'm thinking that he parked there, and that he actually would have come from that location where the cemetery is, crossed, and then when the girls came from the bridge, he then met them there and then came back around. And that is why they say, hey, there's that creepy guy again, because they would have seen him once, and then he comes back around and chases them or follows them. And so that is strange. That would kind of get you wondering, if you see someone, they pass by you, then they come back, you're thinking, why are they coming back? That is creepy. And so then he comes back towards the direction which they are going on the bridge, and that is towards the cemetery location, but on the other side. And he forces them back in the direction which is convenient for him, because I'm thinking that if he was parked at the cemetery, he would want to bring them towards that direction. He brings them down the hill, and possibly to either get one or two of them to the car, and either something happens, maybe he was interrupted, ran out of time, whatever, but that possibly that was the quick getaway, that his car was there, he didn't have to come back, so that there would be another eyewitness. He had planned it so that he could just escape. Or it was just one of those things where he spotted them, he was there, he spotted them, and he thought, hey, I'm out here, I know how quickly I can just get over there and then bring them back around. And so, you've got to really wonder, like, this guy must be, he's definitely not normal, but there is something seriously wrong with this person, that he can harm two innocent girls, and he has a daughter. It just makes it all so much more bizarre, and like, just to try and understand, to wrap your mind around what happened. And so it is very scary. And I find it very, I guess, odd or interesting that he's now just like a monster. He's been taken and put behind bars for Halloween. We are finding out October 31st is the press conference, and that is Halloween. And I think he's a monster. And so it's horrible. It's horrible to think of what happened to those girls. Many of you who have children understand that. Pretty much anyone can understand that. And I just think back, because actually I pretty much every day, not every day, but sometimes I go and check Facebook. And most of the times when I would go into Facebook, I would see the posts from the family, saying that today is the day, the beautiful photos. And that is hope, the hope that there can be some justice for those two girls. And every time I would see those posts, that determination, faith faith in what's right in finding this monster, and they never gave up hope to find him. And I just thank God that this man has been captured. And like I said, to think that this man was free, living with everybody else, and that pretty much there was that danger for whoever, for whatever reason that he might have thought that he was going to harm someone, for whatever crazy reason that he decided that maybe he didn't like someone or he had some kind of crazy idea, and that he thinks that he can go around harming people. So it's just horrible. And so thank God that he's been found. I am so happy to find that out. And I hope that they can very quickly deal with this, that they have the evidence they need, and that he will stay behind bars for the rest of his life, no matter how long or short that is. And as far as why this happened, I've been wondering why in the world, would this have happened? There was talk about revenge. I did hear that theory that maybe somebody wanted to take revenge on the family. And I don't know. I just think that I don't really see how could a person take that revenge on those girls? It just doesn't really make sense. And I have heard that there was a rumor that he had checked himself in after the crime for some kind of evaluation, whatever. He was not well. That is another rumor. But it's just a crazy situation. So guys, let me know what you think. We have been following this case for years now. There have been so many theories, so many different people who became persons of interest. To the last one, Ron Logan, who has passed away, and he came under the spotlight as well with his coming up with an alibi. He had lied. Possibly he had realized that the girls were being looked for, and he realized that he might be in danger. And so he wanted to fabricate that alibi just so that he wouldn't be blamed, to have that alibi. But then it kind of made him look guilty in a way, just because he wasn't being truthful. That kind of makes it look worse. But anyway, so, it's not Ron Logan. Is there a connection? Does this guy have a connection to Ron Logan? They both lived in the same community. Maybe they crossed paths. I don't know. But anyway, so thank you guys for watching. That is pretty much it for now. I'm going to keep following this case, of course. And just thank God that this person is off the streets. People like that who think that they can go around and have a plan to just harm someone. I know that sometimes people have harsh words and we have crazy ideas, and sometimes you might say something that hurts somebody, and but that is not a reason to take physical action. And so this is a case where we have an extreme situation of innocence versus not corruption, but evil, diabolical, ghoulish, monstrous behavior. And I think this is, I guess you could say this is a worst case scenario. And it's very creepy. It's very creepy. And I think it's perfect to go as a Halloween story because it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully things go well for this whole, the case in court. And we shall see what happens. Prayers for the family. They have had to endure this. When you have two beautiful, precious, innocent, beautiful girls, and it's like a light of hope when you have something like that in your family, a child, family member who you love so much, and to see them just harmed. It's just horrible. Anyways, guys, I think that's it for now. I thank you for watching, And let me know what you guys hear. Comment down below, and I will be back again if anything else comes out, and then we can discuss this a little bit more. All right, so that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.